Okay, so how do I want to start this? Probably at the bottom. Also, probably like this. So everyone around here on this list, yeah, everyone around here, I've rated S tier at some point in the last three stages. Whenever I've been doing my uh tank, DPS, and support ratings, all of these guys have been rated S tier at some point. Some recently, some at the beginning, some in the middle, just to like that. I've just put them all on here. Because I figure, well, if you're S tier, maybe you're worth considering, at least to an extent. How I'm thinking about these ratings, I'm thinking like S tier is like no brainer, like top contender for MVP. A is like I see the vision there, like it seems understandable, but I don't really think they have as good as a shot as some of these other guys. B tier is like it's like that's the true, like I see the vision, but it's like kind of an off shot. Like there are other more deserving players. D tier or no, C tier first is like nah, and then D tier is like no shot. Like C tier is like maybe at one point, but like not actually. So that's kind of the vision for the tiers. I probably just need three, but I'm like I'll do four or five anyway. I'll see what happens. So starting off with the bottom tier, with D tier, I'm thinking like in no particular order, probably like I think Finn right now because it can't really be Finn because you have Proper and Kalush who are both probably better candidates at this point. It doesn't really make sense for Finn to be MVP in any way. So I think like D tiers are. I mean, like you could argue C tier, but it's like when you have Proper and Kalush on your team, I don't think it's reasonable to get MVP. I'm also thinking Funny Astro's in this tier because like he has not been getting consistent playtime in the first two stages, and when he did, it was Gladiator's worst stage. So it's very hard to justify Funny Astro getting MVP in any capacity. So that's why he's there. And probably Bernard for the same reason as Finn. It's like if someone on Spark is getting the MVP, it has to be Shy every time. Like every single time, it has to be Shy. There's no other. There's no other possible answer. So like you could argue Bernard higher, but I don't really think so. I probably have most people won't even like blink at Bernard for this. So um and then probably I'm thinking choice A1 in D tier as well. The reason for that is like his team's just been too bad for too long to actually put him above D tier. Like how could you possibly justify choice A1 about like as an MVP candidate? It just doesn't work. If his team is better, if his team was better, like last stage is like maybe and he carried them, but he took so long to get on anyway. It's just not feasible to think of choice A1 as an MVP candidate, even though I've rated him S tier on DPS before. And the final one is going to be Leave for kind of a similar reason. Like you don't have to win anything to be MVP, but you have to at least make one at the tournament. Like surely if Leave had like a really good shot at winning MVP, Chengdu would have had much better results, right? Results aren't everything, but you just can't put a team that has not cracked top four in their region at all this entire season as an MVP. It just doesn't work. Uh, as much as like it'd be cool for Leaf to be back to back, he's like barely. You can't really consider Leaf. It's just not possible. So I'm thinking this is probably the D tier. Like I'm looking at everyone else around, and I'm like, I don't know if anyone else is really that like far off of MVP as these guys. Because these guys are like next level, like not a chance MVP, like not a chance. Um, Now thinking about C tier. What's going on in C tier? Probably, probably like there's a Pelican angle for C tier. It's like he's been good for his team, but as far as actually be having a good shot, he's just been far too inconsistent. Yes, he's been very good, and when Houston has like looked their best, it's been off of like Pelican looking good, but he's been too inconsistent to have an MVP candidacy at all. Houston has not made it very deep in any playoffs really. or any tournaments rather. It's just not there. And next, I'm thinking probably Chio and Fielder together because how could you give Chio or Fielder an MVP vote right now? I guess you could say, well, they've looked pretty good in their Summer Showdown and the Kickoff Clash, but that midseason madness was quite bad, and I would argue that Hobbit and Sparkle both looked better than either of them in either of the other two stages. So I don't think you can really place them much higher either. You could maybe put Chio above Fielder. I think Chio's probably performed a little bit better overall. So you could argue Chio in B tier. Maybe I'll put Chio in B tier. I think that's fine. Like yeah, B tier level, like a very off shot, you could maybe bring up Chio as MVP, but like it's not realistic at all. Um, Next up for C tier, probably like UV. I would put C tier as well. Success that he's had with Atlanta, I'd put it more on Hawk and Kai than UV personally. Well, that's kind of hard actually, because Atlanta like fell apart with no UV, just like fell apart completely whenever he wasn't able to play at his level. Yeah, I maybe C tier is a little too low because it comes down to do you believe Hawk or UV had more impact on Atlanta Rain? I'm kind of leaning towards Hawk right now. Just because he was so flexible the whole time. Basically, that's the biggest reason. He was so flexible the whole time. UV probably displayed better skill, but I think because of how flexible Hawk was, I'm willing to put Hawk in B tier and UV C tier kind of thing. Uh Probably Kaluge next. I'm thinking Kaluge like it's kind of similar to Finn, where you have proper. So how could you possibly ever give it to Kaluge if you're giving it to someone in shock? He's been like solid. He's been good enough to right the ship, but not like he's not been next level. Let's not get it twisted. He's been solid. He's been good enough, but he's not next level. Um, and I'm thinking maybe Chorong because I've just put him in S tier. Yeah, he was looking pretty good in the other two stages, and it's possible to get. It's not even like he was the MVP of Toronto this last stage, though. To be honest, like that was definitely Hisu. I'd argue maybe Twilight was better too. So I don't think Chorong is MVP really. You put Chorong in D tier maybe, but I'll put him C tier because it's interesting to think about. But there's just no world. Actually, there's just no world. He has to go here. He has to go like this level. There's just no world where Chorong gets MVP. Main support plus wasn't the best on the team's best placing. Honestly, I could maybe do this. I see Bernard better than Chorong in a world. In a world like this is where I'm standing. Honestly, hold on. Maybe like this. This looks real. I don't want to undersell how good Bernard's been for this for the Spark. I'll put him in C tier. Still not good, but it's better than D tier, and I think that makes more sense. And I'm thinking Zest also would be a good place to that's a good place to put Zest because whenever Zest is in this just because he did really well in the kickoff clash. But honestly, MN3's had much higher highs and has been more off of that. Felix Success I feel like has been more off of MN3 than Zest whenever they've made deep runs in midseason madness. And basically, like MN3 was able to kind of turn them around last stage, even though they went like 2-4, so it wasn't really a good turnaround. But like Zest out in C tier is like kind of real. Maybe I'll put him above UV and Kalush. Maybe I'd put him above Bernard too. I'd put him like right here probably. As far as willingness to be MVP, because whenever he's on, he's on, and he really is one of the two main driving forces of the fusion, right? If Fusion did better, Zest would probably be higher up, but it's hard to justify putting Zest any higher. So now we're looking into the actual B tier. So these are guys that I think actually deserve some real consideration for MVP. Now we're getting into the point where like these guys are just kind of here because like that's kind of the format I made. Um, but these guys that you're looking at after are like you have to have an actual think about their MVP legitimacy. And so I'm going to start off with Vindane. So obviously it's going to be harder for a main support to get MVP, but he has been so consistently solid for the Soul Dynasty this entire way through. Even on the flex support, he looked good. He steps up big time on the Lucio. I think Vindame's really good, but whenever you have Prophet and Smurf, it's just not realistic that he's going to get MVP over either of them. Because, Prophet, so integral in them getting that kickoff clash victory, and Smurf, with how flexible he's been, is also just as integral. So while Vindame has been very solid in the backline, has been a key driving force, like the number 3 driving force on Soul, he can't be A tier just because Prophet and Smurf are both up there. And that's the biggest reason. He's not been the MVP of his team. He can't be MVP of the league. What else is there in the B tier? Probably this is probably where you put Hawk. I think Chio's gonna end up going like down here also. Probably like down here all the way. This is where I think you're putting Hawk now. I think with Hawk, he's been it's kind of similar to Smurf because he's been so flexible and he's been in all the time that sorry, I got something in the back of my throat that's not doing good. But anyway, Sam Rookie of the Year, yeah. Get Sam up on this list. No doubt. If Sam is proper, no doubt, no doubt. Close. Yeah, I don't know. I think Hawk's been like a pretty solid reason for Atlanta, but not like Kai level or not like up in S or A level for Atlanta, especially because the last stage he was good last stage, I think, but with Atlanta as a whole not being too great, it's hard to really put him up any higher than that. Kind of similar for Reiner, actually. I think Reiner probably deserves here too, because Reiner unable to master the Junker Queen was huge. He kind of needed a good Junker Queen. And the flexibility, while people like to call him super flexible, he actually hasn't really been. If you look at it, because he's played like some Ball, Winston, Doomfist. Outside of that, he hasn't excelled at anything. It's just been the main tank, and that's the tanks he was kind of put into play. Or like that's like what he's known for. Is the main tank, right? And the Hog, I guess. I'd say the Hog, but to me, it's like Reiner's the glue holding Atlanta or holding the Gladiators together when they're doing good, but he's not he's making them excel into the next level. So I think B tiers like you have to give him a think, but you don't have to really look that hard to realize that maybe Reiner's not the one. And I think Sparkle's kind of similar to that. While Sparkle has like really good moments, I think overall it's very hard to actually call him MVP because undoubtedly Hamden was the MVP of the fuel, and while Sparkle was like playing the best, like some of the best Genji in the tournament last stage, it was because Fuel was able to set him up so well, and his team around him was doing so well that I don't think it was more on the raw mechanics and the raw gameplay of Sparkle. Like maybe he was going toe to toe with Proper and probably getting the upper hand at most of the time, because of how good Dallas were. They were kind of setting him up much better. So Hanbin MVP, Proper Rookie of the Year is the lamest timeline. Hanbin MVP, Proper Rookie of the Year is like a lock at this point. I don't know how anyone could get Rookie of the Year that's not Proper. But Hanbin MVP isn't like, I don't know. I don't know if it's that lame. I think that Proper getting both is more lame, but it's also like kind of real. Which I can like look at, I guess. Because the thing, like, if you give Proper both, that's kind of sick. Because no one has gotten both, and no one probably ever will get both. So that's like historic. And Hanbin has been like the best tank in the 2 metas he's played. So it's very hard to discount either of them. But what were the MVPs previously anyway? It was Jonak. What was year two? Propagating both is a 1 in a million chance and won't repeat. Yeah, that is more cool, I guess. Oh, I remember who season two was. Yeah. You can say the same with shoe and flex support. What do you mean? That one guy whose name shall not be mentioned. Yeah, I erased him from my memory. I completely eradicated him. And season three was Fleta, and then it was Leave. What can I say the same about Shu? He was the best flex support. Yeah, Shu is going to be S tier as well, no doubt. She was in the S tier still, even though he didn't play much last stage. Like these three are all S tier. They're not in this order specifically. Probably more like this for me still. But Leave was the worst pick in history. I don't know if Leave was that bad. I think I think I think Lip has been robbed in some capacity. I think Lip should have found a way to be MVP in one of those two seasons. Surely he was, right? Like this season, I'm like this is a spoiler for S, but I'm just like Lip is going like up above both of these guys. He needs one. He needs an MVP. I understand why you give it to Leave because he was carrying Chengdu far more than Lip was carrying Shanghai last season because like Chengdu just like didn't have anyone else but Leave. Like if Leave wasn't like killing everyone, then Chengdu's not winning. Because like the backline's like not the same levels as Izayaki and Li Zhegan. And the tanks are like Void and Fate were on a different level compared to late young Elsa. Gaga was good though. I voted Lip that year. Yeah, that's fair. I think it'd be very interesting if Lip like comes through after that performance from the tournament and gets his win. I think Lip should have been in. I think Lip was better than Fleta in season three. Like I think he was robbed in that season more than season four. Because Fleta was good, but like Lip was like they were both exceptional. It's like it's very hard to pick one over the other, but I was giving it to Lip because he's so good at everything. Like the hit scan, the Sombra, whatever you want to put him on, crazy. Which would be also interesting to see is if he is on the Sombra this stage coming because we've seen a lot of Sombra stuff from contenders. If Lip has like a crazy Sombra and he's like undoubtedly the best Sombra in the league, does he actually have more, even a better MVP standing over Proper with the tournament win, plus being the most consistent player on Shanghai in a season where Shanghai was inconsistent, and then is also like peak performance on Sombra? It's like I think he has a real shot then, but it's hard because these last six games are going to be like just the last six games. These six games aren't going to be worth as much as the tournament stuff. So it's harder to like prove yourself. Where was I? Lip has been the best Sombra in the league since the mixed roster Dallas Doha. Yeah, Lip is just the best. It's like the Lip is undoubtedly the best Sombra in APAC. Maybe Fitz has a really good Sombra too. I could see, but I think Lip is better. I don't know how good Zest or MN3 have on the Sombra. That'd be interesting to see on Philly. I don't know which of them would play it, and I don't know how good it is. I'm trying to think. Jinmu Sombra is not inspirational. I don't want to see the Choice A1 Sombra very much. I don't know what the hell the Valiant's doing. Hacker comes out. Hacker comes out of the gaming lounge, the streamer lounge. Um, I think the Sombra conversation at NA is a lot more interesting than APAC. It's just Lip and Fits and then no other conversation. Or who else is going in B tier? Merit, probably. Merit goes B tier, right? I think Merit probably goes in with Sparkle, right? Like that. Coach of the Year No Hill for billing his own players. Sparker? I think Sparker goes A tier. I think Sparker's been better than all of these guys when it comes to carrying his team. Because I think Sparker is like the real thing that makes London good. If Sparker wasn't there, I don't care how good you are, how hot he is at the Rhine. I don't care about Backbone on the May. It's Sparker and how much he was doing right on Soldier, on the Sojourn, it's all Sparker. It's not all Sparker, but Sparker is like the main driving force. Because like we saw it against Florida in the midseason madness, as soon as they shut down Sparker, it was a wrap. Like they didn't even like London wasn't a team, and that doesn't happen like as much. I think it's who are you going here actually, right? Probably because who are you? While he has like the craziest Genji ever, like undeniably best Genji in the league, it's like it's not as he was gone in the midseason madness, and the kickoff class was like whatever. So I'm not gonna give him much higher than that because of one really good stage. What if Diva becomes meta and Kalush takes a dump on the league? That'd be funny. I'm a fan of Diva being meta, but I don't think it's gonna happen. If Kalush goes like absolutely sicko mode on the Diva for the next 6 games, I don't know. We can put him up to B tier probably. I don't think 6 games is enough to put him any higher than that. Because it's like 6 games that don't really matter either. Because like they're already in. They're just fighting for first. The only players that like the next would be, but then Hanbin would also be Donkey. These tiers aren't very balanced. What do you mean? They're pretty 4 S's and 1A. Well, that's because I'm not done yet. It's because I'm not done yet. I still got another 5 players. Like we're putting Kai is going A tier. Boom. Because Kai, we saw last stage, he needs his team to actually do things for him to get angles because he's not like Sparker. He won't go out there and get them himself with his Lucio. He's gonna sit back and make Hawk and whoever else go make them. So I think he's been a driving force for Atlanta, but not an S level. And then I think Smurf is also going in here because flexibility, and he's that guy. Um, like he's impressed me so much just how he was able to pick up the Zarya and the Sigma that he makes his team like work around him very well. He's like Reiner glue, but on a way better level. And then Shy goes here because he'd go S tier, but because the Spark had such a bad stage, it's impossible to put him S tier. If Spark had like even a 3-3 stage, he would be back in S tier. Like I had him in S tier last time, I believe. Shy getting benched next stage, Shy is never getting benched, I'm afraid. I'm afraid that if Shy was on the Shanghai Dragons, he would be S tier on the MVP tier list. He would be MVP. That might be a little crazy. Maybe that's not true. Actually, are you spitting right now if they want to play Sombra stuff? If they want to go like double dive, like if they want to do like a Tracer Sombra, they put in like Alpha E Pineapple maybe. That would be the worst timeline for the Spark if Shy gets benched. But now there's a doubt in my mind that Shy is actually getting benched. Sombra suck. I wish. Yeah, they got 2 new players, but neither of them are playing DPS, so it's like, who cares? Sombra unfortunately does not suck. Contender seems to enjoy Sombra. Spark play-ins exit? They better not. They really better not. It's Hangzhou, their roles aren't binding. That's true, also. I better not see Teru on the tank. I'll be very upset if I see Teru off of flex support. I don't want to see him on DPS. If I see him on DPS, it's over. It's over. That's not your role anymore, big guy. Put him down. And then I guess I'm just putting both of these guys in S tier. Oops. Could I put someone from S tier into A tier to make it so it's 5-5? Also, probably like Prophet's still my number 2, I think. I think Prophet's my number 2. Maybe like this. Hear me out. Teru greater than Shy. Oh hell nah. Oh hell no. No 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 no. No shot. No shot. Where Alpha E? I don't think did I ever rate Alpha E as an S tier player? Did I? Maybe he should be here. Let me look. Kickoff Clash DPS. No, Alpha U is top of A. Mark. No, I never rated Alpha U as an S tier player so far, so I just didn't put him on the list. Butt Muncher 87 greater than Faker. That's actually true. I've seen Butt Muncher go crazy. No, that's not Muncher. That's Muchner. Nah, I never heard of that guy. Alpha U would be like D tier, or probably like Bernard tier. Maybe I'm not seeing something, and you will say I am, but I don't think Profit is second. I put Shu and Kev and Hanbin above. Do you now, Frags? You don't put Lip above him, but you put those guys. Alpha Yi is def above Choi. Sure, but like that tier is still like D tier, so it's like sure you can put him there, but it's like who cares, you know? I think Choi has been the MVP of his team way more than Alpha Yi has been on Spark. Also, okay, but let me go back to this point about Profit second. Here's the thing about Profit in second. You have he is the reason they won the kickoff clash. Straight up, it was him, no doubt. He's the only reason they beat Shanghai. He goes crazy. Shu and Kevster, they win 2 stages. Profit goes out early, but Profit also goes onto the Brig, which lets Soul go brain dead with Stalker. Because if Profit isn't that guy and isn't so flexible that he can switch to a completely different role, then the Soul Dynasty are getting 6-0'd by Shanghai. Like, straight up 6-0 sweep. Mercargo gets 2 shell smashes off on him. Like, he's gone. And he still was really good in the midseason madness. I don't think anyone beats Proper in the MVP discussion, so what's the point? Yeah, what's the point of this video, bro? I shouldn't talk about it. Because it's important to know who comes second and third and all that. That's still relevant to me. Because do they release the votes of who came like past that? I think that's like relevant. It's not nothing that comes second in MVP votes. Like that's not nothing. That's something like real. I don't know if they released them. I feel like they should. I don't know if they did. We have to see who wins the Rookie of the Year. If Proper doesn't get Rookie of the Year, I'll like riot. Like he just has to. The people who say that he shouldn't win both are like that's such a bad argument. I don't know. It's like Proper's here because he's been consistently carrying his team the whole way, and it's like the carry of the best seeding team in NA. Profit's here because he went to Brig, which made his team way better, and also is the focal point of his team whenever he's on DPS. Lip has been the most consistent dragon in a season of inconsistencies, even from the start. If Lip isn't so good, Shanghai are like way more losses. They had so many map 5 wins just because Lip was able to keep it in, like keep them into it for the first bit. Shu is because he kind of made the entire Gladiators playstyle work with how much value he was getting off of his cooldowns. Even though he was dying, it was not like he was super living all the time. But Shu was so good that he was able to, like, it doesn't matter if you dive Shu, he's got enough value compared to the enemy that he's there. Kevster's been there because he was basically consistently putting in the absolute most work for his team. He wasn't like going crazy aggressive like Proper does or like Profit does, but he gets the job done. And Hanbin is here because he was the best tank in the 2 metas he played, undoubtedly in NA on Zarya and on Junker Queen. If Hanbin has another good stage, he's like he moves up. I don't know where he moves up, but I think he'd move up because he's like undoubtedly had the best tank gameplay in NA. It's not even close as an individual. So I don't know. But I don't think you can move any of those guys to A, and I don't know if I really want to move them. I understand the Profit move down argument, but it's like maybe I'm overrating him moving to Brig, but I don't think so. Lip third, yeah. How much are you considering missing a stage for players like Hanbin and Shu? Is it possible to argue that they are better off being in the MVP over proper? Um, I think it matters a lot because how could if Hanbin misses next stage, for example, like I think 2 out of 3 isn't bad. I think 3 out of 4 is okay. Like you can still be the MVP missing one stage probably, but if Hanbin misses like even half of next stage, he can't be MVP. He's missed like almost half of the season. Your MVP can't miss half the season. That's just not how it works. But I think 75% of the season's reasonable. Uh, it almost helps them and it almost helps Shu in some ways because you can see when Shu wasn't able to be effective, like the Gladiators kind of crumbled. Like they weren't like super bad. I think they were still a good team, but they're on another level when Shu can play, so it almost helps him if you think about it like that. But for Hanbin, it doesn't really because it's like the fuel weren't that bad without him. Like they were pretty bad. They were like mid-table in mid-season madness. I guess that's not fair either. I don't know. We'll see. I don't think either of them's gonna be there though. I don't think so. I think it'll be very hard to take it from proper just because he's been there the whole season. I'm going back to Manjul talking about Lip on third. The thing about Lip on third is I think I said this like a bit aside a few moments ago, I guess, but it's like he was so consistent even when Shanghai was struggling, and and that's like the biggest thing. And even now, like you can say that Who Are You was like the big X factor for Shanghai, but Lip is like was right there with him. Lip and Who Are You were just as impressive, 100% in that last stage, and Lip was that impressive for the last 2 stages as well. So I think Lip third is actually like pretty reasonable. People are just sleeping. They're kind of just sleeping on Shanghai because they never won a tournament until now, and they didn't have a poor run in midseason madness, but it wasn't like a super good one. We also have to keep in mind the first 2 midseason madness fuel matches where Hanbin got dunked on. Yeah, that's not nothing. But then you also have to consider the Shu Yorn. Shu Jorn, not Yorn. Shu Jorn. I don't know. I feel pretty content with this order. If anyone else has any thoughts on it in the chat before I move over to the coaches, which will probably be pretty quick, I would guess. Because it's like there's only what 20 coaches, and some of them are new, so it's like there's not much to say about them. As this is right now, Lip number 2. So do you think Profit had more impact than Lip when leading their team to their respective titles? I think Lip. I think Profit was more important than Lip. I think that's true, yeah. Because the thing with Profit is he literally did carry them out of the Shanghai with like he was the big X factor beating Shanghai in that lower bracket finals, which was an absolute banger of a match. Probably still one of my favorite matches this entire season was Seoul versus Shanghai in the lower bracket of Kickoff Clash. And then there's also the factor that Profit was able to go like I don't know, it depends on how much you factor the Brig into it. Because I think that like that is so valuable as a player to be that good at a different role as well. Like I really value him going over to the Brig and making his team better for it. It's not like he just went over and his team wasn't like better off. It's not like they had other options there. It's like it was Profit on the Brig or like suffer for it. And I think Who Are You and Lip were like pretty equal, but I don't think anyone was equal to Profit in their kickoff clash. You value Smurf's flexibility more than Profit. I think that's true, but also the flexibility wasn't what wins the tournament. The flexibility allows you to win the tournament, but what actually wins the tournament is Profit going crazy. You know what I mean? I see Zest is there, but is MN3 not the same asset to Fusion? I think MN3 has been better than Zest. I think that's true. But this, like, the only players I put on here are the players that I've ranked as S tier in my DPS or tank or support tier list. And MN3 is never actually, I've never ranked him as S tier this entire time. And I ranked Zest as S tier in the kickoff clash. So that's just like how I made my criteria. It's like MN3 would probably be like at the same spot as Zest. Like a little better, like literally one spot ahead of him if I was to put him on here. And I can just for like posterity, but it's like doesn't matter too much. I don't think. Like down here, that isn't important. I think once you get up to B tier, like these are like the actually important topics talking about. Less so because he was off rolling entirely when Hanbin just couldn't really play main tanks. He was willing to roll swap and is still more than serviceable. Yeah, pretty much. The only thing I could really think of like moving is like some of these, like I guess you could consider who you hire. I don't know. Got it. Just figured they both have the same playmaking ability in game and makes Fusion way better than when Carpe is in. Yeah, if you factor in who is in instead of MN3, it makes MN3 look a lot better. The only thing that feels wrong is Sparker A, but it depends on how much you value tournament performance. I think Sparker like kind of deserves A. I don't know, because even like this regular season success, which you have to, yeah, I guess that makes sense because Sparker was kind of shut down his 2 tournaments. That makes sense. That makes some sense to say, but I would say Sparker's the only reason they even get to tournaments. Not the only reason, but the biggest reason. For me, I think Kevster over Lip because he has been consistently good as Lip with more title wins. He was also good even when his team was losing. No, but you can say the same thing about Lip. Like, I think early Lip, like Kickoff Clash, Midseason Madness, Shanghai, where they were still getting wins, but the wins were like map 5 bangers against teams like the Valiant even. Lip was like 100% the best player on Shanghai for 2 stages, wasn't even close. Like, Lip was that guy for 2 whole stages, and then he's still that guy this stage. It's just that his team around him is also pulling their weight better. Because the only reason that Shanghai were able to actually do things was like Lip, and then the team would clutch up, but it was Lip you getting them to the clutch. But there is argument there that Kevster should be. I also like take the opinion that Shu is more valuable than Kevster just a little bit. So it'd be like if I was to put Kevster above Lip, it'd be like this probably. But I think Shu, especially with how like Gladiators just didn't have the same edge without Shu, I think it kind of works in his favor, especially if he comes back into the lineup 100%. I think it. I don't know. I think that's fair. But I think like any order after proper S is reasonable. Do you think Lip was a better DPS than Kevster for all 3 stages, or is that just in terms of impact? I think, like, as a player, Lip was more valuable to his team than Kevster. I don't know if Kevster was a worse DPS, but I think Lip was outvaluing him relative to the rest of his team. Like, if I was to put this into like 5, where it's like each player should be doing about 20% of the team's work, I feel like on the Gladiators, it's like Shu and Kevster were doing like 30 probably respectively. 30 or like 30, 25 each. Like Kevster maybe 25, Shu maybe like 25, something like that. And then Skewed and Funny Astro was picking up like, I don't know, like 10. So there's like, and then the 20 was left between Reiner and Patafan or something, if that makes sense. Where I think for Lip, on Shanghai, most of the time, I would say Lip was like well over 30% a lot of the time. If that's like kind of how I think about it. It's kind of weird to think about, but that's how I think about it in my head, kind of. If that makes any sense. I don't know if that does. The final stage will allow for a complete conversation. Yeah, but I don't know if it'll actually change. Like, it's going to change things. Like, it impacts how good Hanbin and Shu are. But for the other guys, it probably won't impact that much. Unless Lip has, like, the unreal performance on Sombra. Like, next level. Which is possible. But other than that, I think, like, It's mostly set in stone because the final six are like whatever. For example, maybe if London dip into play-in somehow, I don't know if how like feasible that is, but if they were and then Sparker carries them out of play-ins, that has way more impact on his value than the other six maps or matches probably. Nice thumbnail, thanks, man. I don't know if it's showing through, but I basically steal all my thumbnails from like social media accounts to be honest, and then just make them the right size. My bad. But anyway, I think I'm going to go over to the coaches now. I feel like I've talked about everything that chat has brought up that's relevant. So I'll go over to the coaches because there's some coaches that need to win Coach of the Year. Also, this one, the Coach of the Year is not the same as best coach that I put here. Is like maybe not true, but it might be true. Who knows? Anyway, D tier is going to be speedrun. Ashcroft has literally not been a head coach for a single match. Same with this guy. Neither of these two have. So they're going back down here. Probably like this. I don't know how many's above them. I'm putting J-Mac down here. Paris has never looked good. No way to say that he's done a good job. No way to say he's done a bad job either. But Undyne, the New York Excelsior has not gotten better as a team, I would say, for the entire season. Somehow. Just hasn't happened. I'd say like Sung Woo maybe goes top of D tier. His team was too bad for too long to have him be decent. So I don't know. D tier looks like that, I would say. Next is C tier. Oh, I should have like ended the stream and then restarted it again. Like break it up, whatever. Whatever. C tier is looking like probably Jin is a C tier, I'm thinking. Philly have looked like kind of okay, but it's mostly just because DPS pop off. Unrelated question, do you think Proper is going over to the Sojourn and hit scan as the team Sam will fill out the Sombra role? I think he's more than capable of doing it. I think he'd get played over Kilo for sure. He's played some Sojourn. It's been pretty good. It's like on Circuit Royale, places like that. So, if the Shock do want to go over to the Sombra kind of playstyle, which there's a good chance they will, I think Proper will be on the Sojourn. There have been a lot of monkey moments from Philly coaching. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else you really want them to do though. It's like their backline's kind of tragic. They haven't really improved, which I guess is you can point out. Like Fixes should not be this bad at beating so far into the season. I just don't think that Jin has. He's not like playing better than his roster, and the coaching isn't evident. D tier looks like a color palette. It does. I was actually going to talk about it, but I was like, nah. It looks really nice actually. Who else is probably Seppi goes here? Kind of similar. It's like Atlanta feels like they're just winning from their coaches or from their thing. The MN3 bench situation. Oh, for sure, for sure. I actually didn't even talk about that for that. Yeah, and putting Carpe in at all makes him super bad. Stick Toby on there. You think Toby's C tier? No shot. Soul have done nothing to put him C tier. Why would Soul go C tier? Junkbuck? I'm thinking Junkbuck's probably B. I think that like committing to the Dante Doom is a coaching decision to probably help them in the long run. And there hasn't been any like super moments where I'm like, why is this guy playing? What is your game plan? I guess you could question like how sustainable them playing the more defensive dive oriented Doomfist was. You could question that because we saw in the Midseason Madness that like the good teams actually didn't care about their playstyle at all and they just kind of got rolled. But that's the only big thing I can think about for Houston. Solar just frauds. Okay, buddy. I don't know about that one. I think Toby's probably A tier. Because like you have the balls to put Profit on Brig and put Stalker over there. I guess there's some big question marks with why they did Fitz and Stalker splitting playtime in Midseason Madness. But other than that, I can't think of any huge things. I also am going to give him a little bit of credit for helping Vin Dame coach the Lucio because Vin Dame was like not as confident on it, and Toby said that he helped Vin Dame a lot at getting better at Lucio, and you would never know that unless they did that interview. So I think Toby's A. You think Dante is going to fill up the tank role again? Surely they don't put him on a Winston or Sigma or Zarya. Yeah, that's what you'd think, but then Doge is like also just a main tank player. So it's like if they need someone to like, who is their Sigma player when they go to Circuit Royale? Who is coming in? I would probably say Dante should have better, probably has better odds in the Sigma than Doge. Maybe is that reasonable? I don't know. And then there's also the question: if they play Sombra, are they putting Dante over on the Sombra? Maybe. I have no idea what's going on with Houston. It's going to be a wild ride to watch Houston and whatever they're doing. They might just try to full commit to the Doomfist again. Pelican Sombra was serviceable. Yeah, that's true. I think converting Dante to your tank player full time for the playoffs is probably the where I think they should go. Because you may as well. You may as well just commit. Like I don't know how much you want to bring in Doge. They showed that they didn't have the belief in him whenever they took him out in that map 5 against the Gladiators. It was or New York rather back at the stage. I don't know. It's a weird pickup. Sunk cost fallacy maybe. Deep A maybe. Well, I don't know. Deep has done well with the Vancouver Titans, but are they? But when we look at their actual wins, let me put this over here and let me like look at their wins again because their wins aren't actually that impressive. We had some hype on them, but it like they beat Paris, New York, and Washington. Those are the only wins they have. The Iron Shoulder. Yeah, he gets S tier for the Iron Shoulder. I think Deep has definitely improved the Titans, but I don't even know if they're really playing above their roster. Oh, he shouldn't go C tier, though. He should go B tier. It's like, because most of the time it feels like Aspire is the difference maker anyway. And I guess they had a really good job with kiting out and things like that, but it never actually translated into wins against any team that was like unreasonable for them to beat. Because like even last stage, the stage before, yeah, mid-season madness, you could see them beating those teams. It's just that they didn't get to play them. That's where his stock came from. Yeah, from the Iron Shoulder. Yeah, the good old season 1 moments. I think to round out C tier, I'm gonna put Yauxi in here, and then I'm gonna put Supreme here. Probably like this. Because Supreme, like, Washington have been an absolute mess the whole time, but at least they've gotten some decent wins. And at least they look competitive against some good teams. Yauxi is here because, like, he hasn't been so bad that he's been with J-Mac in Undyne, but he's, like, his team has not been even good. They've been choking, and they haven't made a tournament. Like, I know he's working with not a lot, but also I'm going to factor him taking Daisy over Aprita in to my foreman because like maybe that wasn't the GM's, maybe that wasn't all his decision, but surely he had some say. Surely, probably, maybe not. No idea, but probably like that. Who else is B tier? I'm thinking Chengun. Some weird stuff, how he just never got the handle on last meta at all. Luckily, it's gone, but that's a massive mistake. And then how he does with his 4 supports is going to be very impactful on where he finishes the season. Because like, what is he supposed to do with like what? I don't know what Changun's doing. Changun's cooking something up. He was good in the kickoff clash. They probably had the best Zarya comp in APAC. Midseason Madness, they had Shy doing things. Was good. They fished Gushue out of the depth and made him viable again. So I think Changun probably deserves B. But other than that, some weird things. Architect playing a game, I never like to see that. Things like that's a little weird. And I think Yang 1 can go here, probably. Probably above Junkbuck because he was only here. He missed the kickoff clash because that was the other guy, which I can't remember his name for some reason. I can't remember his name. Wow, why can I not remember the old head coach's name? Changun gonna get placed B, and then they play Teru Genji. Yeah, they're gonna play Teru Genji, and he's gonna shoot right up the A tier. The KDG, yes, thank you. I don't know why I couldn't remember KDG. Yang One, he was really bad in Midseason Madness because they played the Winston Echo for the first week for some reason. They acted like the patch notes never happened, and that was really concerning. But because he was able to not only get the Fine to play so well with the Ash, but stick with the Ash whenever a whole bunch of teams throughout the tournament was not good, or what where they weren't playing it rather. Not good. It was good. But the ability for him to like tough it out with the Ash is really high value, I think, and like trust his team and trust Tisu. We pretend. What do you mean by that, Dynamic? What do you mean by that? Bro said we pretend. What are you pretending? Who is bro pretending? Top of B. A motherfucker pretending. PK. What? What is bro talking about? I'm putting face at top of B. Like, for sure. Average Overwatch chatter. Real. So face is going top of B because a lot of, like, it's hard to contribute the Gladiator success just to him now. Because of how much they struggled in that last stage. They just weren't able to quite get it together. It's kind of criminal that they weren't there. And then there was the whole thing, if he brought in Space earlier and he like recognized that Space is a better Junker Queen than Reiner, they probably have a better stage for it. They probably make it to the tournament again. Well, that's maybe a bit too much. Maybe they don't. Well, I think they have a better chance. I think that's like a key coaching decision that's kind of weird. Putting Shu on the Sojourn instead of just running it with Ons is also a big problem, I think. Like, that showed that he didn't really trust Ons at all. And that he was willing to put Shu on Sojourn. And I just didn't like that play either. Like, you could argue bottom of A, but I think top of B is, like, fair anyway. And then for A tier, we have Toby. Well, yeah. I guess we have probably Rush. Rush can probably go here. Because he falters in the midseason Madison plays Gurio so much. Maybe I can't put him here. Maybe I have to put him B. Actually, just because he played Gurio for an entire stage, I'm putting him B tier. That's literally the only reason. A tier for space for face because 2 titles exist. Yeah. That's the thing. And he did make some good composition. I'm like torn up if I want to put him. He's going bottom of A if he's going A. It's like, I see the vision. I had him S tier last stage, so I guess he has one bad stage. He doesn't trust Ons. He doesn't play space over Reiner. But other than that, there's no real issue you see with it. So I think bottom of A is probably reasonable. You're probably right. Just because 2 titles. Yeah. It's a good shout. And Rush is staying here because Gurio. Other than that, yeah, he showed that he was able to pioneer a composition he liked with the Kickoff Clash Zarya comp. And then the Summer Showdown Junker Queen. They were excellent at it. But that one stage is like a major blemish, and it was really bad. So I'm just gonna put him B tier. I could put him A, but B feels better probably. And then I'm gonna go with Moon. I think I like that he was able to recognize the mistakes right away back in Midseason Madness when they were trying to decide Fate or Void. That was very big that he was able to just say, you know what, Void isn't going to work here. Let's work with something that this team is good for. They run the Wrecking Ball. It looks pretty good. They get a decent placing in the tournament. Not great, but not awful. So I think that was good. I think benching Fleta, bringing in Who Are You, and having the tempo that the team was playing in makes him definitely worthy of A tier. And like, there's not been too many huge missteps. It's just like Shanghai were a bit I don't know. I can't think of the word. Un inconsistent, not inconsistent, inconsistent at the beginning. That's the only thing you can really put on Moon. Other than that, I'm gonna put Krusty in probably above Toby. I'm thinking because yeah, he's been working with the full rookie team, which is very hard, and people give him a little too much credit for that. But yeah, um, yeah, Krusty's pretty good. It's unfortunate that his team's not made an actual run yet, or not. They've made runs, but this is he like hasn't run a tournament, so he can't really be S tier. But he has been very good in the regular season. He had some pulled out some things like the Kalush Diva on Eichenwald that was really good, and not too many missteps overall. So I'd say Krusty A tier is more than reasonable. What were your thoughts on the 2020 Shanghai roster in the preseason? Did you expect the monster they turned out to be? That's a while ago. I don't know. I think I probably expected them to be pretty good. I didn't expect them to be literally the peak performance of Overwatch, though. Like, you cannot get better. I probably didn't expect that. I didn't follow Owl as closely back then either. Like, this is like the most I followed Owl for sure. But I didn't expect them to be the best team ever, probably. No. I thought they'd be pretty damn good. I wonder if I could go back and find one of my 2020 preseason. Maybe I'll try and do that next time I like stream or something because it'd be way too hard to find now. But pretty good I would expect. And then finally for my last two coaches here we have Gunba and Christopher, and I'm gonna give it to Christopher still, and then Gunba. And I've turned around on Gunba, straight up, because I had him. I was very low on the Florida coaching for the longest time. I was like, what is going on here? This is poor. I don't like it. Hater. Big Florida hater. But now, oh boy, we have Gunba, and he has the double flex support. And I was a hater the whole way through, but it was actually good. I'll admit that it was actually good. And then you put Majet on Lucio. That's a big that takes a lot of guts to put Majet on Lucio and then fix him. They fixed him. I can fix him, he said. He did. They cut down the feeding. They increased everything else. Exceptional stuff there. The decision of when to play Hydron and Exley, a bit shaky at times, but they figured it out. Toning down the aggression. They always get better at the end of stages. I've been thoroughly impressed by Gunba now. But Christopher has been something else because the committing to the Reinhardt, which they weren't going to at some points, I think they said. And then they do it and they look good. But also improving on the Wrecking Ball while they're at it. Also, the Junkerkun comp was always good. Figuring out how they want to carve their niche in the meta. Did they want to run the Mei? Didn't work out. They switched off of it. They were better for it. They let the Backbone Genji run wild. I'm going to go with Christopher because they've had better results for longer, but Gunba at the end of next stage, and depending on it, like what it's looking like after play-ins, I could definitely see me putting Gunba ahead of Christopher, and the Gunba being my coach of the year. It is there, but right now it's going to be Christopher, I think. So I don't know. This is what I think I'm going with the coaching right now, but anyone else have any? Why Moon a tier over Rush when Dallas have had better overall results? Because you played Gurio an entire stage, mostly. Also, yeah, I guess Dallas have had better overall results. Fair. Um, I don't know. I just feel like Moon has addressed the problems with his roster a lot better than Rush has. Because whenever like he was able to fix them a lot better, and like it's mostly like they play Void. They say Void's no good because the coaching's not there. They put in Fate right away. He's all there. Um, Rush, on the other hand, he was like willing to let Gurio cook. I think he let him cook for way too long, and it basically cost them a stage where they could have been much better and they could have had way more points. And then they finally bring in Edison, but it's like it took so long. Rush could go A tier. Like I don't think there's any problem with doing this either. Maybe I'm overplaying the Gurio situation, but I feel like that was such a massive misplay that it like I don't know. It really annoys me. If depending on how also I didn't like going back before I move on to whatever else I was gonna say. I didn't like that they were running the Moira Lucio as a way to kind of like negate not having a hit scan when you were playing Gurio. If you're gonna play Gurio, just commit to him like trying to make him better. And don't try to run weird stuff that kind of like limits the amount he needs to do to win. It was like they were kind of committing to Gurio, but at the same time they just weren't. They were committing with having him in the roster, but not committing with running the weird Moira Lucio Winston stuff. That just didn't need to happen. But other than that, it's mostly like the midseason madness was not. I just wasn't a fan of it. If they have a good next stage, he'll be up. Why did Rush pick up Gurio? What did Gurio do that made Rush get him? On Gurio has like some potential, I guess. He probably did really well in tryouts because apparently he's been quite good in scrims, from what I hear. I don't know how real that is. I don't know if that's true. That's just like what the rumor is, and that it just never translated on stage. And their problem has always been they needed a hit scan. So if they said this guy looks really good, he's the best hit scan we've trialed, they just pick him up, and then it just doesn't turn out. And that's just how it happens. That's what I can assume because I don't know. Gurio wasn't like a huge name before Owl. I personally haven't watched him at all before Owl, so I can't really say much on that front. But maybe something like that. Blue Squad B9. Chris owns all them bombs. So true, Meteor. So true. Until next stage, and if Gumbo looks good next stage, then maybe not. And another reason you could put Gunbo over Christopher is because Florida has been winning the tournament elimination matches every time, and that like kind of comes from the top down, and it helps that like I don't know like what the reasoning is, but they're really good at making adaptations on the fly, which is important. And Christopher maybe is a bit weaker at that, so that there is an argument for Gunbo over Christopher, I think for sure. We'll see. We'll see what happens next stage. I think Christopher gets my benefit of the doubt. But anyway, this is probably what I'm looking at for my coaching. If anyone has any other ideas. I find some of the Florida crackpot comps are kind of cool. I think so too. I think that the Florida crackpot, I think some of them don't work. But whenever teams don't adapt, like whenever they pull out Hydron on the Tracer on Oasis City Center, it's like that's really good to against like what some teams are running. And if those teams aren't able to adapt fast enough to it, then they just win kind of. Like whenever you saw teams run the Ashe into it, it's like the Ashe struggles a lot into that. Where if you just swap Sojourn, you probably have a much better time. So I think that is really cool. And not a lot of teams are willing to put that time or into it. But Gumba recognizes that like his team's not going to win the mirror if they put in the same amount of time most of the time. So he cooks up some other stuff that's really good. Lip to be potential goat. Who is your goat? My goat's probably Prophet. I think he's been absolutely stunning every single year. Lip is there. I think Lip is there. If Lip wins like this season, for sure. Or if Prophet wins this season, like for sure my goat. But I think Prophet has been around just because Prophet was there longer. It's Prophet right now. When it comes to hit scans, though, Lip is probably like the hit scan goat. I can't think of a more goatier goat than Lip on the hit scan. But if we're talking all time, Smurf also has an argument for all time. I give Smurf an argument as well. Um, Let me look at Wikipedia and see who else I would consider goat. Probably. Yeah, I don't know. Smurf Prophet, Lip, Fleta. Fleta maybe has a better argument than Lip because again he was around longer and has been put up more or less consistent results. He's only really fell off this stage or this season, so probably there. Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with like around there. Who else do you think is retiring from Shanghai? As what is confirmed? Who do you think they will sign to cover those holes? I do not know. It is way too far out to say that. I do plan on watching like a lot of contenders once Owl is done, but right now I haven't been kept keeping up as much. But like after Owl's over, I'll be able to actually say who I think they could potentially pick up in the way. You could also try and just rock out with Fate. Maybe trust him to maybe get super flexible. I don't know how much I'd like to do that. I don't know if he has the Sigma in him. Who else do I think is retiring? I wouldn't be surprised if Fleta retired. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if anyone retired. They've been playing a long time. No retirement would surprise me. I'd say Fleta's probably the most likely because maybe he says, "Oh, this was kind of an off season for me, and maybe it's time to end on a high note." So yeah, I guess Fleta, but could be anyone. You're never too good to retire, as we've seen with like Troy Hyobin. He was the goat when he retired. Super was still good when he retired. You know those kind of players. Do you rate Shanghai over Shock in the in terms of accolades? Hmm, probably not in terms of accolades, because Shock has straight up won back-to-back titles. How could you like strictly looking at accolades and not looking at the actual strength of the teams? Like I think Shanghai was better than Shock last season. Like Shanghai was a better team last season than Shock were in their two tournament wins, but they've won two. So just in terms of raw accolades, the raw like trophies, Shock has to be ahead of them. I think. Yeah, I just don't see how you could put Shanghai. But I think Shanghai was a better team. Probably Shanghai last season was probably the best team Overwatch has ever seen play the game, including this season. Like the best team of Overwatch one ever was that Shanghai Dragons. Six stage titles, one Owl versus three and two. I think the two Owl because let's say because the difference there it's you're competing. It's three stage titles against one Owl title. So do you value three stage titles more than one Owl title? I don't. I think an Owl title is probably more than six stage titles, right? Or than three, because if you like subtract the two, that's kind of what it feels like to me. I guess it's kind of close. I guess it's kind of close, depending on how much you put on the stage titles. If Shanghai like win this one, of course it's going to be Shanghai. I wouldn't be surprised if Shanghai win. They could definitely win. So, mm, but anyway, I think I am going to end the stream now. Probably make some food. Um, but yeah, will you ever do the analysis on Proper's gameplay to highlight the impact he has? I would if I had replay viewer. Without replay viewer, it feels really bad. Like because a lot of the time you have to like guess about where things are. Like I tried to do that with Kaluge on Diva, right? And it just like felt really awkward because you don't really know what he's doing, so it's hard to highlight it. Because there are a lot of times where I like, well, I don't know where Kaluge is right now. I can't see him on the screen. I don't know where he is, but I assume he's over there doing something, and it's like that doesn't feel very good to watch or feel good to do. So if I got replay viewer, I definitely would do a lot of analysis videos, I think. But without it, it's like I'm kind of mooching off of like even when Custa does a VOD review or something like that, I'm mooching off of that. And that feels a little awkward to do also. So but yeah, maybe whenever Overwatch comes out in the next or Overwatch 2 in the next 2 weeks, hopefully we get replay viewer with it, and we'll see what happens. But anyway, I would love to answer every question forever, but I gotta make some food because I'll be hungry and it's 8 p.m. So thank you so much for watching, tuning in. This will probably be uploaded onto YouTube. And yeah, have a good one.